Team, what's up? You already know what we're going to do today, and I'm really excited about today's session because we're going to continue working through the goal model as we continue to build the foundation of our system. And listen, this is where the rubber meets the road. But what I believe is that you're going to rise to the occasion because you've been engaged every step of the way. You've been giving the best of yourself to yourself, and you've been faithful to the process. So now that we're going to kick it into next gear, I believe that things are going to work out for you in a way that they haven't before because we're about to attach new behaviors to our new mindset. What's in your head is about to be converted to what you do with your hands. And that's going to make all the difference. So let's get into action. All right, team, let's work. Once you nail down a specific goal, consider some of the obstacles you'll likely encounter and identify some of the opportunities you can create. Then what you're going to do next is to take everything you've done so far, go back to the beginning of this model, and apply action steps to all of your answers regarding who, what, when, where, and why. Because if you remember, I told you that getting exactly what you want starts with knowing exactly what you want. And because you've established a specific goal, meaning you know exactly what you want, now you can put specific actions in place so that you can move towards getting exactly what you want. Now, as I walk you through this section, I couldn't honestly tell you exactly what you needed to do for your specific goal because I don't know what your goal is. And every goal calls for different things. But what I can do is to give you some principles and ideas about some of the things that you could do, and where I can, make recommendations about some of the things that all of us need to do, regardless of what goal we have. And all I ask is that you keep it simple. Meaning, if you can't draw a straight line from the action you're considering to the goal, then don't take that action. Your objective is not to be busy, it's to be effective. So let's start from the top with who is responsible for the goal being accomplished. If you are working solo, then maybe an action step you could take would be to get prepared mentally by starting your day off with a spiritual practice like prayer or meditation to center and safeguard your mind. Maybe there's a certification that you need to get before you can begin working on your goal. If your goal is to move up in your company, maybe you need to ask the higher ups what you need to do to get promoted, and then show them that you're willing to do what it takes to fill that position, or that you're already doing those things and would be able to prove to them that you can be trusted with more responsibility. Because even in situations where others have a say in your advancement, you still need to be proactive. Because in the event that you're denied or looked over, you'll at least know that it wasn't because you didn't do everything in your power to earn it. If a team is involved, then maybe a meeting needs to be called so that everyone can get on the same page. Whether you're the solo character in this story so far, there's a team, or the final decision is in someone else's hands, actions will need to be established for whoever is involved so that you can get things moving. Next, we need actions for the goal itself under the question, what's the goal? An action that could go along with this step might be putting your goal in your calendar so that you get a notification first thing in the morning so that it's fresh on your mind throughout the day. You could try posting your goal on a vision board or in your most frequented places so that you're constantly reminded of it. Maybe you need to hire a coach or join an accountability group that will keep you focused and encouraged and motivated. What I would definitely say for everyone, and something you've already done, is to make sure that you write your goals down, review them daily, and to only take actions that are directly related to accomplishing the goal. Next, we have to deal with when we're going to work on our goal. And this is where you're going to take your calendar out and look through your schedule. And team, again, let's keep it simple. What we're trying to do here is to find not just time, but the best time for us to work on our goal. And unless it's absolutely necessary for the sake of the goal, there's no need to reorganize every aspect of your life right now. You just need to find a time where you can keep the main thing, your goal, the main thing. For me, I found that my most productive hours are between 4 and 6:30 a.m. During those times, there aren't any distractions, my mind is fresh, and for whatever reason, I'm able to get my best work done early in the morning. For my wife, it's the exact opposite. She gets her best work done late at night between maybe 10 and 12 p.m. Now, when it comes to finding the right time, something you've already been doing, which was by design, was to take at least an hour out of each day to work through this course. So you've already established that you at least have an hour in each day when you can work on your goal. So some of you could keep that same schedule and substitute the time you spent with this course to work on your goal. Simple solution. If that's not you and you need more time, or you're working with a team that will need to determine the time, then you could grab a daily planner or use a 24-hour schedule that's in your workbook and consider using the steps I'm about to give you to work through this section. And again, we're going to keep it real simple. First, you want to analyze your day to see where your time is going and what time you have available. The second thing you want to do is determine how much time you'll need to work. And the last thing you'll need to do is to find the best time based on your available time to do your work. I told you, we're going to keep it real simple. And if you feel like there aren't enough hours in the day, then you'll likely need to make a sacrifice, one of our 5 daily choices, by giving less time to certain activities or cutting them out altogether. Or you could do what a lot of very successful people do and just wake up earlier. The only thing I don't want you to do is to make excuses about not being able to find the time. Because if it's that important to you, then you'll somehow find a way. You'll make the time. And this last part is for everyone. Make sure you establish a start date, and if you don't have an ongoing goal, an end date, because we want to hold ourselves accountable to actually accomplishing the goal. If you don't have a time in which you want to accomplish the goal, then all you're doing is hoping that tomorrow will magically give you what you want instead of taking what you want. Because the truth of the matter is that if you don't take it, you won't get it. It's that simple. So determine when you're going to start and finish, and if your goal is ongoing, determine when you want to reach certain milestones so that you're always growing and pressing forward. Personally, I would encourage you to start during or at least right after this course is over so that you don't lose too much momentum. If that's not possible and you need to take a little bit of time off, please start soon after, because you don't want to lose too much momentum. Lastly, as I mentioned earlier, this step isn't just about dates and deadlines. It's also where you're going to measure your movement. So as you begin to establish your schedule, an action step you could take is to assess your movement every week, every month, or every quarter to see how you or your team is progressing so that you can determine if you need to keep doing what you're doing or if you need to make some adjustments. Assessing could be as simple as going through your journal entries and seeing how you're progressing or regressing. It could be as simple as asking your coach or your accountability partner or group if they've seen growth. If you're part of a team, you could see how your teammates feel about your progress by a show of hands. And for some of you, you might need to use professional tools or even have someone come in and do an assessment for you. The point is simply to make sure you know how well you're doing so that you can stay on track or switch things up. Next, we're going to deal with where we're going to work on our goal. Say your goal is to work out 3 times a week. Then an action step could be buying a gym membership, purchasing equipment so that you can work out at home, or buying running shoes so that you can run around your neighborhood. If the goal is to volunteer in the community, then an action step could be to go online and find nonprofits that need volunteers, or get a background check so that your opportunities aren't limited. If you're working with a team, then maybe you need to reserve a meeting room 2 times a week for, say, the next couple of months. And make sure, here's something that you need to keep in mind. Make sure that you're not just thinking about physical spaces. You may need to spend some time in a spiritual practice like prayer or meditation to declutter your mind so that you have the mental space to work. Because sometimes it's not the physical space that makes the difference. Sometimes it's the mental space that makes all the difference. Lastly, we're going to deal with why you chose your goal. Now, this step is very personal, so get creative, be intentional, and thoughtful as it relates to your why. So if your why is your family, it could be as simple as placing them as the background on your cell phone so that every time you pick up your phone, you can be reminded of why you're doing what you're doing. If your why has something to do with your personal story, it could be keeping a journal so that you can track how far you've come and how far you plan to go. If your why is spiritual, it could be reviewing it every morning or throughout the day in prayer or meditation. What you really want to focus on right here is having strong reminders of your why. Because I have no doubt that there will come a time when you begin to question why you're doing what you're doing. And you're going to need to be reminded of why you chose it in the first place. You're not always going to be motivated. You're not always going to feel inspired. You're not always going to want to push through. So you're going to need something greater than your feelings and frustrations to help you stay on course when you don't feel like it. And that's your why. So make sure that the actions that you take are ones in which your why is constantly before you, because you need to remember why you're here in the first place. At this point in our process, you've established a specific goal. You're taking into consideration some of the obstacles you will encounter. You're seeing that there's an opportunity with every obstacle. You're following through with action steps to accomplish the goal. And you're using your why to keep you focused. And everything I just mentioned make up the main components that you're going to use as the foundation from which you're going to continue building your own personal system. I mentioned before that you can't just plug and play what other people are doing with their lives. It sounds cool and all to say that you're using so-and-so's method or system, but you ain't so-and-so. And when they built their system, they didn't have you in mind. Granted, it might be a really good system, and some of the principles and values might be universal, but you know yourself better than anybody else. And you would do better to take the best practices and principles from them than to try to take their values, their schedule, their eating habits, their goals, their methods, and whatever else you think you need from them. Because you can't be them, but you can be the best version of yourself. And nobody can be better at being you than you. And while we're talking about you, take a minute to think about where you are right now opposed to where you were before you started this course. In a week's time, you've gone from not being where you wanted to be in life and feeling like a failure to putting a plan together so that you can get where you want to be in life. Think about that. Think about all of the time you spent struggling to figure it all out. And with a little bit of help, you've gone from wondering if your dreams can become a reality to putting a plan together to make them a reality. And yes, we're just getting started. Yes, we're still in the planning phases. Yes, we have a lot of work ahead of us. But the difference is that you're starting to believe in yourself. You're making better choices. You're not letting your past dictate your future. You're not making excuses. You're not questioning yourself. And you're creating a plan. Listen, team, your life is already shifting and you deserve to be proud of yourself. So give yourself a pat on the back. Now, we're almost ready to go to the last step of the model, which is launching our plan into action. But there's one more action step that we're going to work through together before we do that. With that being said, tomorrow is going to be a really light day so you can continue working through this model, because this is where you're really going to see change take place in your life. Change takes place when you take intentional, consistent, thoughtful, and meaningful actions. We spend a lot of time developing a healthier mindset, working on making better choices, and changing our perspective. But at the end of the day, those things need to be reflected in our daily living. So lock in, keep your work handy because we're coming back to it. Take your time and remember that if it can be done, that's right, You can do it. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.